Good afternoon, students. This is Dr. Morgan Phenix coming to you from Stanley, Virginia. It's a pretty dreary Sunday afternoon. We had a great session in church, but since then it's been drizzly and rainy and cold, and Thanksgiving is over. So I thought I'd make a quick video for you this afternoon. And before I do anything else, I want to apologize for being a little bit late on grading your case studies and your journal article critiques for this past week. I got tied up with the Virginia School Board Association the week before, traveling to 2 days on the road, and then Thanksgiving this past week. Just apologies for being a little bit behind, but that's all done now, at least for those that were turned in on time. You have journal article critique and a discussion board this week, and everything should be in order with those. I think we've established at least what the guidelines are for those who are watching the videos at least. But for today, I'd like to just very briefly go through the case study number 1, just to be sure that my comments on your papers, on what you've turned in, make sense to you. And I think that you need to retrace your steps. Most everybody did very, very well. There were a number of students that didn't quite get the understanding about special education identification and the good fortune that the student at Surge ended up with Mrs. Evans, and that was justification enough to place Surge in special ed, even though he was not assessed properly. Well, that's illegal, basically. And certainly it's a good fortune. It's coincidental that he met Mrs. Evans, and I think that's what we should be taking to heart here more than anything else. That good fortune is what we need to be motivating our teachers, our staff, to be those kinds of persons, such as Mrs. Evans. Alrighty, but here we go. The number one issue is that Serge Romanich arrives at your door. You were to look at the case study as a site administrator, as a principal, as a person who would be greeting Serge and making plans for him. And of course, almost all of you recognize that Mr. Sims didn't know much of what to do other than to be friendly and welcoming. Unfortunately, he also assured Mrs. Romanich that everything would be fine, and everything was not fine. It was incredible that Serge was in such good shape as he was. He's resilient. I count him as the number one strength in the entire scenario. That he has not gone to pieces. There are several iterations of that case study. It's a classic, and in one of them, he has also witnessed his father's death. You know, he was there when his father was killed in the insurgency problems or the civil war in Serbia. Okay, but they've taken that out. And I think that's wise, because that level of trauma doesn't really belong in this case study. Okay, but there's a history there. Mom is with him. They have a translator in the form of the aunt, and there's also a very large Serbian community, and there are 36 or 37 Serbian kids in the school, as from some of the iterations of this scenario, this case study. And Mr. Sims had every opportunity to draw upon people who could help in making decisions. What he did basically was to simply have the student placed in age-appropriate third grade, even though the boy had never attended school in native tongue. He had attended school perhaps for part of a year in France, and that's it. So I would certainly hope that you as administrators would recognize the need to do some creative thinking here for a student that has probably never been in a proper educational environment, in that he has never had his own home language to gain instruction in his home language, his native tongue, and always trying to catch up with a foreign language, with French, and now English. Okay, so he's placed in age-appropriate class, doesn't do well. He gets some LEP help, doesn't work well. They don't spend time, and so they push him through the special education route or track, and that does place him eventually with Mrs. Evans, which was very, very fortunate. But the special education placement, I would estimate, was wrong, in that he has normal nonverbal scores. He may be a little bit below, scoring a little bit low in anything related to language. That's who would interpret that in any other way that he probably didn't understand the questions really, really well. Didn't navigate the test very well. And this is a fourth grade student speaking a foreign language, or in a foreign language situation, having to ask for a translator. And I think that knowing Serge, or feeling as I do about how he was behaving, he probably was comfortable enough to ask for a translator. But typically, a student of that age would be a little bit reticent. Okay. But the testing came out with normal nonverbals on the lighter and the Woodcock-Johnson. I'm glad that many of you or most of you identified those specific tests, or at least the nonverbal portions, okay, as being normal range, and that everything else was language-based, basically, where we scored low. Probably never belonged in special education. But it gets Mrs. Evans. She understands a bit about him. She takes him to heart, as we all should do. And I think that's the message to be learned from here, is that don't rely on one person to make all your decisions for you, nor should you take that upon your own shoulders, because you might be wrong. In this case, why didn't he draw on the other Serbian kids in the school? Or maybe they were all in special education classes already. Maybe they have used that as the service route for students that they don't quite know what to do with. I think of Harrisonburg and Rockingham, Harrisonburg City and Rockingham County here in Virginia, with 67 or 68 different dialects and language to deal with, and they are charged under the law to service those students. But once again, remember that you are meeting students at the door. Okay, they come to you, they stand there, they are full of all kinds of apprehension and wonder, or rage even perhaps, or anger, or fears. Kids at the door, young kids, and we have to welcome them in the proper way, as we would our own children. I will also pass on to you one personal history. And I don't usually do this. In 1978, my Danish wife brought her daughter, her 9-year-old daughter, to the United States, and they were going to settle in here with me to live together. And the daughter did not speak any English, spoke only Danish and a little bit of German. Okay, so, and I was on the staff at Muhlenberg College in the education department. I knew exactly what to do, so we turned it over to the specialist in Allentown, the public schools there, and they came up with a great solution. They put her in an EMR class. Okay, since her language level was about the same level as educable mentally retarded students. That's what they called them then, EMRs, and so that's where she landed as in her class. And she, of course, has finished her university education at this point. So she was, and I accepted it. The school principal accepted it. Everybody thought that was a pretty good solution. It reminds me of Mr. Sims, and I didn't belong in any. I can't. I live in shame of that one still, and I'll post that this week in the discussion board. The scenario there. Take it to heart. We make big mistakes sometimes, and Mr. Sims made some big mistakes here as well. Alrighty, and I just want to thank you once again for being a little patient with me and getting your things graded pretty late. There's some of you that still haven't turned in. You're probably not the ones watching the video here, but there's some latecomers, and I've sent you an email concerning how I will grade your case studies, perhaps in you having seen this video. It's no great loss to me to allow you some thoughts that maybe you hadn't crossed your mind. But once again, remember the child at the door, okay? And we have great responsibility. Thanks all very much, folks, and we'll see you next time. Looking ahead, that's it. Looking ahead to week 8. Remember the option you have to revise a journal article critique that you didn't gain full points on, and revise one even if you got full points. look at it again and put it into week 8. It'll save you some time in a very busy week, and you can do that. But you must put up there revision week 6 and put down the score that you received in the original submission. And finally, in week 7, looking ahead to week 7 for the case study number 2, these are very, very different. The details are not there. It's broad strokes as to what they're doing. They're expelling Dan. It's trying to expel Dan. We have a problem with Robert and being bullied with regards to his cultural background, his Aboriginal descent. And then we have Emily, who is a special education student. And there are issues about these 3 students. You choose only one of those case studies. Choose one that is close to your heart. But there is very little specific information, such as the test scores and the lighter and the Woodcock-Johnson for Surge. You are going to have to use your creativity to tell me maybe even a little bit about what is not in the picture. And there's much to be told about those scenarios with regards to what is not in the scenario, what they don't tell you. But once again, it's not a research paper. Don't bring in any outside research whatsoever, not even your own expertise in the field. Okay, your good common sense as you start to view what's maybe not being applied that should be applied. God bless you all, and I hope things do well. I'm going to introduce you to Gracie, one of our three little ones here. Here's Gracie. She has no idea that there's a computer out here, and she sits here so quietly while I'm doing this, and she's a wonder. Got a little bit of a bad hip problem in the back, and I'm not sure she's going to make it in the long run, but she's 3 years old this year. Got her as a Christmas present in 2012. It was a great Christmas present. Alrighty, God bless you once again. We'll see you next time. Lord willing. Bye-bye.